Crisis on Infinite Earths Part 2. And it's your boy Icon with another DC animated review for you, a movie review this time, going over Part 2 of the Justice League. So hit the notification bell, like and subscribe to my YouTube channel because we got some good stuff coming out. Like I got X-Men up on my channel already and we started doing my adventures with Superman. And happy Memorial Day one and all. It's actually my birthday, but we're here still bringing you this good DC television goodness. So now now in the last one, in the first one, because I forgot a lot that happened in the first one. I remember that Flash and Iris, they saved the world. Like they built the tower in Flash time and they ended up getting towers like in every Earth all over the multiverse. So this way they can phase whenever the anti-Monitor wave comes in. So it starts off with Batman. So they're on an Earth, because remember this is Batman from Earth 3, the one who gave Robin up for adoption. So he's on I thought he was on his Earth. He's on a different Earth. And he's going around and he's chasing the Joker. We hear the Joker's laugh. It sounds like Mark Hamill. Kudos to Mark Hamill, the GOAT. And then then he runs up on the Joker. When Batman takes down the Joker, we find out that it's not the Joker. It's actually Commissioner Gordon, who got hit with Joker venom and everything, and he turned. And then Gordon ended up dying. So then after that, he was just like, "Oh, you were a diversion, Jim." And then the actual Joker shows up. He tries to kill Batman. And then right before he kills Batman, then that's when the Bat family shows up, which is Huntress, Robin, Damian Wayne, Batgirl, Terry McGinnis from the future, Batman Beyond, and I believe Batwing was there as well. It was like damn near like everybody. So they're all fighting. They're taking down the Joker, taking down the minions or whatever. And then that's when they get into a discussion with Batman. Because on their Earth, their Batman died. And this particular Batman, he never had a Bat family because, he never took the kids in. But now all of them are together, and Batman's basically telling them, like, listen, I'm responsible for protecting Gotham and for protecting the city, and I don't need help. And they're just like, bro, like, we've been doing this shit a lot long. Well, not so much a lot longer, but they said, like, we were trained by you. Like, we know what we're doing. And then he was like, no, I work alone. And then that's when Barbara was like, well, who gave you the authority, to be the authority, like, here on our Earth? She's like, this isn't even your Earth. And then he's just like, I got the authority when my Earth 3 was destroyed. So that ended very quick, and they just took it. Like they they didn't argue with him because they're right. That's not his Earth. But they didn't argue with him. They didn't fight with him. He said what he said. And they were just like, okay. And then they just let it rock, and that was the end of it. No matter what Earth we're on, Batman forever remain a G. So then, all right, so we leave that portion of it. And now that we leave that portion of it, we're going on to the actual storyline because there were two storylines here. And it was a little confusing at first, but eventually everything came together at the end. The Bat thing was important, but that'll tie in later. So now there are two stories here. We get a lot of backstory. Like there's a lot of backstory. We get the backstory for the Monitor, and then we also get the backstory for a character named the Psycho Pirate. First, we'll talk about the Anti-Monitor, because not the Anti-Monitor, but the Monitor. The Monitor storyline, it takes place right before this, like the Legion of Superheroes Supergirl movie. Because in that particular movie, we saw that when Supergirl, she was on Earth, she was with Clark, she was bored with human technology, and then he sent her off to the future. So apparently, this shows you, she ends up coming back from the future, because remember, at the end of that movie, Batman and Superman disappeared. And they never said, well, I guess they disappeared because the Monitor had called them to help protect the multiverse. But she didn't know that. All she knows is the future disappeared because the future that she was in disappeared and it never happened. So because her whole future got erased because, due to the multiverse, the multiverse collapsing, the future never happens. So because of that, she ends up going back to the present to try to find Superman, try to find Batman. She can't find them. And then it goes into the whole backstory about how the Monitor even got there to begin with. So apparently she's known the Monitor from day one. Because when Krypton exploded, because remember, Kal-El's ship got sent to Earth, Kara's pod got knocked off course, and this time, the Monitor was basically in outer space observing Krypton dying, because that's what he does. He's a Monitor, he observes. While he was observing Krypton dying, Kara's ship was floating around in outer space, and he was getting annoyed because he was like, I'm trying to observe the destruction of Krypton, and this girl's ship keeps getting in the way. So his robot helper brought Kara onto the ship. She woke up, and then that's when they told her that, like, your planet's dead, everybody's gone. She lost her memory at first, so she was a little docile. So he basically kept her on the ship, and the Monitor, he basically raised her, like, as his own. Eventually, she got her memories back, and then when she got her memories back and he let slip that Kal-El was alive and living somewhere as a grown-ass man, she got mad. She was like, oh, you try to keep me from my family, and then she gets upset. She leaves the Monitor, she jumps in the ship, and then she goes find Clark. That's how we get to the Supergirl movie with the Legion of Superheroes, and then they even showed a clip where he was watching her because while the Monitor was, on his ship basically doing his monitoring thing, his robot was watching her. He was basically watching the Supergirl movie, and then he was just like, oh, Kara Zor-El she's extraordinary, and she defies the impossible, and she can do the impossible. So he was just like, oh, she might serve of some use to me. So then when Kara ends up coming back to the present to try to find Superman and Batman, the Monitor shows up. He transports her back onto his ship, and then she punched him in the face. And then she was just like, she's like, I thought I was rid of you. And then he was like, oh, but I need your help to help save the multiverse, or otherwise billions will die. And then that's how we ended up getting her when she popped up in the first movie, when she was just like, oh, I'm working with the Monitor to help save the world, and blah blah blah. That's how that whole thing happened. So that was some pretty decent backstory there. The weird thing about it, though, throughout the entire film, she was acting weird. Like, she kept, like, staring off into space, and every time Superman was trying to ask her a question, he was like, yo, like, Chief. He's just like, yo, what are we doing? And then she just, like, her mind just kept drifting, but we never really found out why. Because every Justice League member, they were off in different places trying to protect the towers that are protecting the planet. Wonder Woman ended up going to a planet that was run completely by the Amazons because she said that her Amazons died. They never had a Wonder Woman, so it was a nice little marriage. And then there was a point where, like, these shadow creatures showed up all over the world, like throughout the multiverse. These shadow creatures kept showing up to try to destroy the towers, and Wonder Woman was trying to help the Themyscirians protect their tower. But then she was just like, "Listen, we need more help. We need more assistance." She said, "Where are the men on this planet?" And then she said, "Oh." Then Hippolyta said, "We locked them up before the battle started." And then she was like, "Woman," she said, "we need them to, so we can help fight these shadow creatures." And then she was like, "I would rather die before I put weapons in a man's hand." And I was like, "Here we go." So their Earth didn't survive. And then the antimatter wave came and killed their planet, and it also killed Diana, so we lost Wonder Woman. So, like, thanks. like yay feminism. So now it takes us to another storyline where there was one particular character. His name was, I think it was Charlie or something. He's basically the psycho pirate. I forgot his actual name. And when I say it takes us through his backstory, like, we saw his whole backstory. Like, I'm talking about from, like, day one up until, like, this point. It showed when he was a kid how he had superpowers. He had, like, some dormant power within him that let him sense or, like, feed off people's emotions. And whenever people got very emotional, it caused him to be in pain. His parents argued all the time. They hated each other. They fought all the time. Or maybe that was a projection of his anger onto them. Like, who knows? But then his parents ended up sending him to boarding school, like deep, deep in boarding school, to where he was completely isolated from all mankind. And of course, whenever you're in an environment like that, kids are going to be kids, bullies are going to be bullies. And he got bullied while he was in boarding school. And when I say bullied, they weren't like teasing him or calling him names. They was kicking his ass. So he was getting beat up a lot, and him getting his ass whipped actually made his power progress and get bigger, because there was a point where he was able to project his emotion into other people and have and control other people to an extent to have other people do his do his bidding. So the kid who was like beating him up, he made another kid go grab a pitchfork and stab the kid who was beating him up in the chest. Then he just got to the point where he used his power to take over the whole damn school. And he was mind controlling everybody. He was like killing people. He was basically getting his revenge. And then we get to a point where the parents started wondering why their kids were never coming home. And then the parents and the police ended up showing up. And then that's when they saw, like the psycho pirate, where he had control of everyone's mind and everyone's power. He killed the police. He killed all the parents. And then he basically just grew up and became a person who like used his power to get what he wants. Like, he was attacking like Germans, like Nazis, like he joined the Nazis, and he was like killing people who were on like rebel ships and things. He was just doing a bunch of like crazy shit. But then he got to a point where he ran up on Doctor Strange, and then he had Doctor Strange tied up in a basement, and he was telling Doctor Strange his backstory, which was like, because the whole time we're watching his backstory, he's telling this story to Doctor Strange. And then when he tries to like mind blast Doctor Strange basically mind blasted him, and he was just like, "Oh, you can't take me down. The power of fate compels you." And then Doctor Strange gave him the ability to travel through the multiverse. And I'm like, why are you giving a bad guy power? And then he told the guy, he said that your power is needed in the up and coming battle to help save the multiverse. So he did say that his power, he gave him the power on purpose because he knew that he would be needed to do something. I don't know what that was because this guy ended up being the villain. So when he gets brought onto the ship, when the Monitor brings everybody onto the ship, when he got everybody, he was using that guy's power because he can project emotion. He was using that guy's power to project calming emotion throughout the multiverse so that way they wouldn't scare the people regarding the antimatter wave. And he wasn't really happy about it, but he didn't have a choice because he was just like, well, I'm not used to dishing out like happiness and like jolliness. He said, I usually thrive on pain, but I got to do what I got to do because if I don't help you, then we can't save the multiverse. So then the anti-monitor shows up as like a whisper in the Psycho Pirate's ear, and the anti-monitor told him, he was just like, oh, you can do more. He said you can control a new universe, you can control the anti-universe, and then he basically used that guy to, because the anti-monitor used him as a pawn. So he tricked him into helping him. So what he did was, but on all the Earths that are left, all the superheroes that are on those Earths protecting the towers that are saving these Earths, he used his power to project anger emotion into the multiverse, into every single person on the multiverse. So this way they could fight each other, and the anti-monitor can use his shadow demons to destroy the towers. So back to the Bat family. So now the Bat family, or Batman by himself, Batman was in front of the tower protecting his specific tower. The shadow demons showed up, and then after the shadow demons showed up, he was trying to fight them, and before the shadow demons killed Batman, the Bat family came and saved his ass. And then he was just like, I told you I didn't need your help, and they was like, well, we didn't ask, so we're here to help you. So while they were helping him, that's when like the Psycho Pirates anger waves, like made it to that particular Earth, which pissed everybody off, and then it got to the point where the entire Bat family started fighting each other. Like Superman was fighting people on his Earth, like Kara was fighting people on her Earth, and then even then the anti-monitor got into Kara's ear, and then he was just like, oh, along with the Psycho Pirate, they were just, because the Psycho Pirate got into Kara's ear too, where he made her feel anger, and then the anti-monitor told Kara, he was just like, oh, the regular Monitor is responsible for killing your world because he could have stopped it, but instead he just watched from a distance and it's all his fault. And then she got all riled up and she went back to the ship to go kick his ass. Superman, he's beating up some of his superhero friends. Meanwhile, on another planet, John Stewart, he's fighting Dr. Light. The two of them are going at it. And then the same old guy that was showing up in the Flash, in part one, in the Flash portion of it, the same old guy with the powers or whatever, he showed up again. John Stewart saw him and tried to talk to him, and then the two of them got into a fight where it was John Stewart versus this magic guy, and then while the two of them were fighting, John Stewart said his name out loud, and when John Stewart said his name, he was like, I'm John Stewart. That's when the old guy was like, holy shit, my name is John too, and it ended up being Constantine, like John Constantine. So he used his magic to turn himself back to normal, give himself a shave, put a jacket on and everything, and then he was just like, oh, I lost my memories, mate. He's like, but I got my memories back again. He's like, I'm John Constantine, like sorcerer, and then that's when Stewart was just like, well, shit, if that's the case, can you make like this antimatter crap go away? And he was like, no, mate. He was like, I just got my memories back. He was like, I'm not going to be able to do it just yet. So he's trying to get his bearings together. Meanwhile, the shadow demons are closing in, and they're getting ready to destroy the tower. And then Batman, he deduced that intense light will get rid of the shadow creatures. So while so they sent the word out to every single person across the multiverse, and then that's when John Stewart made the ultimate sacrifice, where he took his lantern battery. He put his ring inside the battery. He started speaking the oath to the point where it overcharged his ring, and then his ring exploded with, the battery. The ring exploded inside the battery. The battery exploded, but that intense explosion was enough light to kill all the shadow creatures. And now John Stewart doesn't have the ring, and he's back to normal. It's like now we're in John Diggle territory. So, so that was that. The Bat family ended up, the Bat family snapped out of their anger when Bruce got snatched up by the shadow creatures, and then they went in to go save Bruce, and then after that they saved Bruce, and then that was okay. Superman, their anger wore off and everything. More planets died, but they did save a few of them. I mean, again, we lost Diana, and then after we lost Diana, then this huge monster showed up, And then when the huge monster showed up, he was just like, oh, thanks to all your anger, all your rage, and the fact that more Earths have died, you've now given birth to the Anti-Monitor. And the Anti-Monitor showed up, and the man was like 5 jillion feet tall. Huge monster. Everybody was like, oh shit. Like, now we got to fight this, now we got to fight the Anti-Monitor. And we don't even have the Monitor to help us fight the Anti-Monitor, because when he realized what had happened, and the Monitor was like, oh my God, he was like, I'm responsible for all this. And I don't understand how he was responsible for that, because there was like this whole speech where he was like, it's all my fault. I'm like, what did you actually, I missed that. What did you do again to the point where all this was your fault? Because another hero guy in a green hoodie, not the Green Arrow, he showed up and he was telling the Monitor, he was just like, yeah, this is all your fault. You just stand by and watch and you did nothing. Now you got empathy and everything and blah, blah, blah. And then he was just like, yes, he said, all this destruction is all my doing, all my fault. And then he disappeared. And then when he disappeared, Kara was standing there. Then he was like, oh shit, and then she was like, murderer. And then she used her heat vision and she melted him. Like, she's like dead ass, like she cooked him, like she cooked him. And then after she cooked him, the anger spell that she was put under by the Psycho Pirate wore off. And then she was like, oh my God, what have I done? And then she went over to him and tried to like pick him up, because she even called him stepdad at one point. She went over to him and tried to help him, because he did raise her for a long time before she got mad at him and left. I don't know if he's dead, because he was still breathing. He was moaning when she was holding him in her arms. He was moaning, so he might still be alive. He's just been cooked, like he's just been like deep fried. But maybe he'll come back in part 3 to help save the multiverse. They kind of led us to believe that he was dead. And now all the heroes that are left, they're responsible and charged with fighting the Anti-Monitor, who's now risen to power, because the Anti-Monitor, he's trying to destroy the multiverse so he's trying to destroy the current multiverse so he can make way for the anti-multiverse, and he can take over and he can reign supreme. And I said Psycho Pirate's dumbass fell for it. I have no idea why Doctor Strange gave him power. There was for him to pass through the multiverse. Apparently he will play a bigger part in this in part 3. That was how the film ended, and thank you for tuning in. Like I said, so this was good. Aside from the fact of getting Psycho Pirate's entire backstory, I thought it was good. I wish we could have spent more time with the Bat team, but I guess this wasn't their moment to shine. This was a more Supergirl based, based film. It was basically about Psycho Pirate, the Monitor, and Supergirl. Those are the 3 keys to this particular film, but we did get Jon Stewart, we did get Constantine, so share your questions, comments, and or concerns down below, and we'll continue to talk about everything that we've seen. So like I said, check me out on TikTok, check me out on X and or Instagram, Facebook, always on YouTube, where you can share your questions, comments, and or concerns. What did you think of part 2 of Justice League Crisis on Infinite Earth? Share your thoughts below, and we will continue to talk about it. Like I said, guys, so check out my other reviews, because I've got X-Men 97 on my channel, and I've got the first 2 episodes of My Adventures of Superman. And thank you to everybody, all the new subscribers to my channel. I'll keep trying my best to pump all this stuff out for you as we roll on for some more superhero goodness. So that was it, guys. So thank you for tuning in. Here it is, May 27th. Happy birthday to me. Don't let the multiverse destroy you. Keep your anger in check. And until next time, guys, we're out this bitch.